Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Alifiana Pereviana, and on this occasion, I will explain a material about feminism, namely The Love of Medusa by Ellen Cixous. Before going into a deeper explanation, we first need to know exactly is the meaning or purpose of feminism. Well, the purpose of feminism is a series of social political movements and ideologies that have the same goal, namely to define, build, and achieve gender equality in the political, economic, personal, and social spheres. Another definition of feminism is the recognition that there is an imbalance of power between women and men, where women are intentionally placed in a lower role than men. So, the essence of feminism itself is to highlight freedom, independence, and the emancipation or equality of women with men in all aspects. Then, on to our next material, The Love of Medusa by Ellen Cixous. Ellen Cixous is a French teacher, feminist writer, poet, and playwright. She was also a philosopher, literary critic, and rhetorician. Cixous becomes famous after publishing her work entitled The Love of Medusa. In this work, Cixous discusses the topic of feminine writing. The main point in her work is that women should pursue writing despite a time to drive them of the field in the past. She also shows how feminine writing can be seen through the text itself. So, um, in the past, there was a lot of discrimination against women, including in terms of writing. And when a woman did write, it would just be considered nonsense. And according to Cixous, this is what makes women rarely write in history because they are rejected in such a position. Cixous urges in her essays that the history of writing has become one of polycentric traditions that have contributed to inhibiting women from thinking, creating, and innovating. Therefore, she urges women to destroy the traditional oppressive masculine discourse that dominated literature for centuries and create a new genre of writing called recreative feminine or feminine writing by using their bodies as a way of communication and as a means of convincing themselves into the text, word, and history. Over the centuries, um, masculine language has dominated and is more powerful. Women have no right to express themselves in a patriarchal world because, as Jesus points out, they are considered dark, dangerous, passive, and uncertain. Well, to get rid of this complex, Jesus asks women to free themselves by writing that relates to themselves, but which cannot be defined or theorized by male-centered language. Jesus then goes so far as to say that women are bisexual because of the disposition of their urges, whereas men cannot be so without losing their phallocentric masculine characteristics. What's more, she firmly believes that writing is bisexual and women should address both genders. Like other post-structuralists, Jesus also believed that women were closer to imagination and fantasy, and far from stability, fixed meaning, and vision. Henceforth, women will manifest themselves through poetry rather than prose, which contains ordinary language and codes. In her view, the language of poetry is closer to the subconscious because it contains multiple meanings and is closer to female sexuality, I'm sorry. Well, derivative deconstruction and psychoanalytic theory had an important influence on Cixous' writings. Therefore, they deconstruct all the chains that make women inactive in dismantling gender difference in language and urges them to construct new signification of orders that are not limited by the binary of female and male, passive and active, and dark and light. In addition, Jesus also disconstructed Proust and Lacan's story by adopting the head of Medusa. As the title suggests, the essay incorporates Medusa as a metaphor to describe a woman's beauty, oppression, and intelligence at the same time. According to Greek myth, Medusa was cursed by the goddess Athena into a terrifying figure with hair like a snake and a gas that could turn anyone to stone. She was killed by the warrior priestess by killing her head. And Cixous described this myth of Medusa's extermination as an attempt by men to silence women's voices and cut off women's language. Here, Cixous alludes to women being mistreated by their male counterparts, just as Medusa was once mistreated and raped. On the other hand, Jesus also hints at women's jealousy and hatred of other women under the influence of masculine worldview. Jesus continued to develop this idea when she argued that men had secretly committed the greatest crimes against women. With violence, they have made women hate each other and made them enemies of their people. Furthermore, Medusa's metaphor is associated with Freud's modern psychoanalytic analysis, which states that Medusa's head reminds man of castration. Jesus takes Medusa's head as evidence to show how men whose minds are haunted by the idea of castration are unconsciously weak to see female sex to the point that they are afraid to become women. At this point, Jesus clearly debunks the mythology that proposes a woman's identification is shaped by what she lacks. And in the light of French psychologist Lacan's theory of lack, the woman's desire for the masculine body does not initiate from the body itself, but arises from the lacking of the penis. Jesus censored this phallocratic interpretation, alluding that her personal desire of the other is for the other, and this notion of the lacking is lacking and inadequate. By discarding the lacking theory, Jesus encourages women to rise beyond the order of the binary opposition of the symbolic order by utilizing their bodies and internalizing the oppressive structures of the androcentric world. Well, to conclude, Medusa looks at the barriers of the masculine discourse because she has discovered her own feminine writing in which she represents her body as a way toward thought, a thought which would query the roots of male-centric contemplation, that which would not silence her voice, granting her the chance to illustrate her unconscious latent self and the erogenous pleasures, and thus more political and social accomplishment will be achieved in the society. Well, that was my explanation, and here the references. I apologize if there were some mistakes during the presentation. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.